Today we're looking at 4 graphs that will tell the story of why today's housing market is nothing like the great financial crisis of 2008.
Keep it real, I keep it real, I keep it real, just keep it real.
Hey, what's up guys? It's Sam Hartman, keeping it real estate in Fortwayne, Indiana. And as always, I am here to bring context and clarity to the real estate world so that you can be confident consumers out there. And there's not a question that I talk about more with my customers and my clients than, is now a good time to buy? What's happening with the real estate market? Is there going to be another housing crash? And so today I have 4 graphs that we're going to look at and that I often will talk about and point my clients to help appease their fears, to paint the picture of the different dynamics that are happening today in our market than what led to and happened in 2008. Rise in interest rates, the quick rise in home values, and they say, well, there's no way that housing market can support that, so it must come crashing back down because that's what happened in 2008, right? Well, it wasn't just rising prices that brought prices crashing back down in 2008. It was a lot of other interesting dynamics happening behind the scenes that led to that financial crisis. So again, we're going to look at 4 graphs today that are going to paint the picture and show how today's real estate market is on much stronger footing and totally different than 2008. Now, first and foremost, I want to talk about foreclosures in the real estate market. And you're probably maybe seeing headlines that are saying that foreclosures have doubled, foreclosures are up 200%, foreclosures are this or that or the other. And these headlines aren't necessarily wrong, but they are extremely clickbaity because they're not putting any of that data and information into context. Let's zoom out a little wider and look at the history of foreclosures, how they looked leading up to and during the great financial crisis, and what we're seeing today in our current window of time. And you tell me if you think foreclosures are going to be a problem in our market. Now, I want to step back and highlight the reason foreclosures are concerning is that they bring cheaper inventory to the market. These are often homes that are dilapidated, less cared for, haven't had the time, energy, and money invested in them, obviously, over the years if their homeowner hadn't been able to pay the mortgage on them. So that's why the foreclosures could be a risk at affecting home prices if they were to flood the market with lower prices. But let's zoom out and let's look at this graph that goes all the way back to 2003, first quarter, all the way to the first quarter of 2024. And so I want to highlight here there's 2 different bars here. It's highlighting foreclosures and it's highlighting bankruptcies. But I really want to focus on the black bar graph showing the foreclosures. And you can see as early as the first quarter of 2005, we start to see a growth and a ramp up of foreclosure activity. And we really see that fever pitch in 2009 and 2010 with very high levels of foreclosure activity. And you can kind of see that black bar highlighting that trajectory of those foreclosures at that time. But then after the great financial crisis, you see a precipitous fall in foreclosure activity. And then you actually see almost no foreclosure activity during the COVID-19 pandemic because you remember the government put that moratorium in place saying that banks could not foreclose during that window of time, trying to give homeowners the opportunity to get back on their feet. Now, coming out of that moratorium, once that was lifted by the government, we did see some increases from those extremely low, almost 0 number of foreclosures during the pandemic, but it's very little. Most of those homeowners were actually able to utilize that moratorium to get up to balance on their mortgages, to make up the difference. And it actually was a great program that lifted homeowners kind of out of that potential risk of foreclosures. So look at the very far right of the graph here. We see in 2022 quarter one, we started to see that increase in foreclosures, and that's where a lot of those news headlines are coming from, saying, oh my gosh, foreclosures are up 200%, the sky is falling, the market's gonna crash. But look at this zoomed out picture. Look at how low the number of foreclosures are since 2022 as compared to even where they were baseline leading into the great financial crisis, 2006, 7, 8, and 9, when they were really on the rise. Even the baseline foreclosure activity leading up to that financial crisis is substantially more than where we are at today. So, are foreclosures something to be concerned about in today's market? I don't believe so. I think we are far off from the historic average of foreclosure proceedings in the market. So I don't think that this is something or a market dynamic we need to be concerned about right now that could affect home values and prices. Graph 2 I want to highlight has to do with the financial strength of consumers today. So it's looking at the mortgage origination credit by credit score of mortgage borrowers. And so we can look and we see the light blue bar is kind of your prime borrower at a credit score of 760 or more. And that dark blue at the very bottom is your high risk borrower, 620 or below. And so you can see all the way at the far left of the graph, the volume of high-risk borrowers below a 660 credit score. The blue bar and the yellow bar was substantially higher leading up to 2008 financial crisis. But now you can see where we're at in today's market, all the way at the right side of the bar graph. Those borrowers are almost non-existent. Those borrowers that are higher risk, that have the lower credit scores, that don't have the history and proof of making payments, are not borrowing money and are not buying homes. So this goes to show you how important your credit score is if you want to pursue the dream of home ownership. And so it's never too early to start making sure you're prepped and prepared to have the strongest credit score possible when you step into home ownership, because that is going to be one of the biggest factors that affects your credit score. That is going to be one of the biggest factors that affects your interest rate. The stronger your credit score can be, the better your interest rate is, and the better your housing affordability will be as well. And again, I also just want to highlight the overall strength of buyers in today's market as well. Look at those light blue bars. Look at that spike. Look at how strong that buyer profile is in the market during COVID times. Since 2020, the sheer volume of buyers with credit scores of 760 or above is so strong. It's such a large part of that buyer pool, so that these lending standards have gotten so much stronger, so much stricter, that the risk of the buyers and the risk of the borrowers in today's market is a totally different dynamic than what led to the 2008 housing crash. Graph number 3 is going to show a picture of the borrowing and the risk and the leverage that consumers have open on their home equity lines of credit or credit cards out there. Now, I myself have seen headlines that have made me a little bit concerned, talking about how consumer debt has risen to record levels. But this graph here actually goes into depth and paints the picture of not just how much debt consumers have leveraged at this point, but the sheer balance that they could be leveraging. So it actually shows here, you see the light bars and the dark bars are actually showing credit card balance versus their credit card limit. And you can see here that it's almost 20% of the limit that consumers could be leveraging in terms of their debts. They're only leveraging about 20% of the credit available to them. So even though consumer spending and consumer debt has risen, consumers are far from over leveraging the consumer debt that they could be using. And that I think helps paint the picture and helps us know that consumers are maybe spending a little bit more responsibly than some of the headlines are making it out to believe. And last but not least, let's look at the total balance and delinquency status of mortgage borrowers, because let's be honest, foreclosures take a long time to ever come to the market. So it could be a 2-year span from the time someone gets foreclosed on their property to the time that property actually hits the market. So there's no immediate necessarily risk of a lot of homeowners being foreclosed on and those homes instantly reaching the inventory of the market. But looking at delinquency status and the volume of delinquencies can help us maybe project and see, is there a problem coming in the future? And so this graph is showing the red bars are severely derogatory delinquencies. The orange bar is 120 days late. Yellow bars are 90 days late. Blue bar is 60 days late, and the green bar is 30 days late. And so you can see here the delinquency statuses of mortgages today are again at substantially lower levels than anything that was ramping up and during the great financial crisis. So yes, I do think that there will be more foreclosures coming to the market in the next couple of years because of some of these delinquency statuses, but the sheer volume of those foreclosures are going to be gobbled up by the demand of the market, and I don't expect it to be at a volume that is going to inflect so much inventory to the market that would affect prices. So that's it, guys. Clear as mud, right? These are the types of things that I'm constantly researching and evaluating these market trends so that I can best advise my clients and help them find that context and clarity so that they can be confident consumers. So how can I help you find context? How can I help you find clarity in today's market? It is my goal to help you be a confident consumer. So let me know how I can help in your housing search or in your housing sale so that you can be the most informed consumer to maximize on your real estate goals. Thanks for sticking with me today, guys. And remember, keep it real estate out there.
I keep it real, just keep it real.